Welcome to Censored. This reading is from number 111, and it's entitled Let Them Eat Cake. Evil cannot be regulated. It can only be destroyed or confined. The God of the Bible cannot destroy Satan, the father of evil, because Satan is immortal. In the millennium, when Jesus rules on the earth for 1,000 years, Satan will be bound in the bottomless pit and will be unable to broadcast evil attitudes to the human inhabitants of the earth. After the millennium, Satan will be released for a short time to spread evil around the world again. We need not at this time concern ourselves with the why of this scenario. We need only understand that in the end, Satan will be bound forever in the lake of fire. Evil will not exist any longer and will not be able to conflict with or confuse God's message to mortals. Evil is inherent in this country's financial sector. It runs rampant throughout our political and private sectors. The core of what we call our capitalistic system is evil. If anyone actually believed that the Troubled Asset Relief Program, TARP, and the rest of the financial bailout was meant to spur the economy and help Main Street, then the recent Senate vote to kill a proposal to spend $14 billion to send $250 checks to 55 million seniors had to put an end to that fiction. The Senate rejection, 50 to 47, meant that many Democrats joined the Republicans in thumbing their noses at seniors. It should be clear to all by now that no one in Washington gives a damn about seniors or the real economy. Economics 101 shows us that because we are a consumer-driven economy, the more people spend, the more the economy expands, and the more jobs are created. Although the $250 is hardly enough, even George W. Bush's $600 stimulus wasn't enough. The fact is that to get the economy moving in the right direction, people must have disposable income to spend. The U.S. Senate should be ashamed of itself for voting against seniors and sucking up to Wall Street. A casino economy, a world away from the real economy. Anyone who supports the circus economy on Wall Street is a fool and certainly does not deserve to be seated in the United States Senate. Our media does not mention often enough how we got in the economic woes that our country is suffering through. These woes are a direct result of evil actions and policies undertaken by the George W. Bush Cheney administration. President Bill Clinton's administration left G.W. Bush a surplus, no deficit, something no fiscally conservative Republican administration has ever done in recent memory, if ever. Republican claptrap about balanced budgets and fiscal conservatism is bullshit propaganda. G.W. Bush gave us $1 trillion and counting in war debt, $1 trillion tax cut for the rich, a $1 trillion bailout for the crybabies on Wall Street, and not one net job created in 8 years. We were given fudged CPI numbers that hid the actual inflation rates in our economy. But now we hear that all this is the new president's fault. He owns the economy now. What a joke. But with all this, the United States Senate could not come up with a lousy 68 cents a day for Social Security recipients. But George W. Bush got everything he wanted when he wanted it. Bush wounded this nation badly. And according to Bible prophecy, America is on the decline. Many Americans defend the evils in our economic system as if they were defending their religion. In the bailout, Wall Street banks got multi-billion-dollar bailouts, while community banks that play by the rules and indulged in sound banking practices have been subjected to strict directives that are squeezing credit for local businesses. The same people who defend our brand of capitalism as if it were Christianity are not pleased with how the Bible portrays them and their love of capitalism. To address this problem, they are rewriting the Bible to bring it in line with conservative characterology. They want to make the words of Jesus more conservative friendly. These people seek a return to the very economic policies that have been discredited. To them, capitalism is Teflon. It is impervious to any criticism. Capitalism, free markets, and globalization have for these people been clothed in a veneer of patriotism, and all criticism is seen as blasphemy. The 5 largest banks saved by the financial bailout are bigger than ever, and their executives and traders are richer than ever. They also still gamble recklessly with other people's money, and they are still unregulated. A fiction of modern life is that Wall Street's financial health is a precondition for our prosperous real economy. However, we in the real economy depend on the financial sector in order to borrow money. It used to be that we once borrowed from local and regional banks, and small business did the same. A basic capitalistic assumption is that those who are paid the big bucks are very smart people. The financial meltdown has shown us otherwise. Very smart people put our economy on life support. These very smart people then went crying to government for a bailout. The government that they despise and believe should be drowned in a bathtub. So these very smart, greedy, voracious, self-centered people eventually got bailout money and bonuses for the great job they did. But the problems on Main Street that Wall Street caused were hardly addressed. Main Street is mired in a disastrous debt trap. All this is due to the fact that in the last 30 years, all economic growth has gone to a relatively small number of people at the top of the income ladder. In 2009, Main Street got hit hard. There are no jobs in the real economy. Most people are unaware of the fact that even at full employment, it is necessary to have a 4 to 5% unemployment rate. Even in good times, there are not enough jobs for those who want to work. It is now becoming clear to many thoughtful Americans that as long as income and wealth keep concentrating at the top with the have-mores, our economic problems will only grow worse, at least in the real economy. The evil bastards who brought our economy to its knees collected $20 billion in bonuses in 2009 after taxpayers bailed them out. These bonuses were 17% higher than previous years. It would seem that the undeserving, the greedy, and those that are evil in the financial world fail upward. When the evil CEOs responsible for the financial meltdown appeared before the Financial Crisis Inquiry Commission, they apologized for their risky behavior and poor decisions. They said they underestimated the severity of the 2008 financial crisis. However, they defended their outlandish bonuses and compensation practices. They admitted that they understood the taxpayer fury regarding the bailouts and the bankers' pay. Also, they said they were grateful for taxpayer help. They admitted that they caused a lot of damage and that they made a lot of mistakes. They could have done things better and that their behavior was improper. They told the commission that their behavior was risky. And in the end, they said they supported tighter oversight. Wow! Ain't that just great? However, the fact is they can and are still doing the same things that they did before. The laws that were repealed and done away with to allow these evil bankers to do what they did are not in place. The same chaos remains. Quote, we can either have a democracy in this country, or we can have great wealth concentrated in the hands of a few, but we can't have both, unquote, said Supreme Court Justice Louis Brandeis back in the 1920s. The statement is still applicable today. In 1944, Franklin D. Roosevelt got Congress to enact a law making the top marginal tax rate 94%. This law reined in the robber barons. It was now possible for tens of millions of Americans to grow into the middle class. Along comes Ronald Reagan in the 1980s with his government is the problem mantra, and if we just enrich the rich, trickle down, all would be well. In 1988, Congress lowered the top marginal tax rate to 28%. And today, the top 1% has as much wealth as the bottom 95%. History is clear why America's fiscal house is not in order. The wealthy have, for 30 years, not paid their fair share of taxes. No flat tax, consumption tax, or fair tax can make up for this. Only raising the top rate can. Taxes were, except under evil kings, meant to be paid by those who have money. It's such a simple concept. Again, it cannot be stressed too often regarding how the United States was thrust into this financial meltdown. It was the Bush years and the Republican policies of unending tax cuts for the rich, excessive and unnecessary military spending, deregulation, and the repealing of laws that kept the financial sector in check. Conservative economic theories that are touted as God-given, but instead were mythical, were at fault. It is hoped that we now understand that the conservative rights narrative is dead. It was a lie. But like a zombie, it keeps rising from the dead. Even New Jersey's new governor has resurrected the trickle-down nonsense. The evil seems unstoppable. The United States Supreme Court has screwed up again. This costly screw-up, as usual, favors the wealthy over the rest of us. In a 5-4 decision, the court said corporations can spend unlimited amounts of money in election campaigns. According to corrupt decisions and a mythical original decision, the Supreme Court treats corporations as people. Today, corporations, as part of the ruling plutocracy, are entitled to more rights than you or me, real persons. In arriving at this absurd decision, the court, its conservative-leaning members, overturned and struck down prior precedent and made a mockery of the one-person, one-vote thinking. Despite conservative criticism of judicial activism, that is just what the conservative judicial team displayed in this screwed-up decision. Activism, if it means anything, means the overturning of precedent. Granted, some precedents need overturning, such as Kidda comes to mind. But this decision was completely political, an elitist political coup. This screwed-up decision only enhanced the powers and wealth of the plutocracy running our country. Political conservatives applaud the Citizen United decision by the United States Supreme Court, giving corporations the right to steal elections by pumping any amount of money into a campaign to help or defeat a candidate. Conservatives would have you believe that they are strict constructionists when it comes to the United States Constitution. This decision puts the lie to all of that. This decision was based on a mythical precedent that corporations are persons and entitled to 14th Amendment protections, etc. There exists no original court decision that grants personhood to corporations. All laws built on this supposed precedent are null and void. They are false. If corporations were actually persons, then they would have to be considered irresponsible, irrational, pathological, even killers. Let's be real. The framers of the Constitution never thought of corporations as persons. One can twist and wrest this argument any way you want. But the fact is, corporations are not persons, in law or out. The idea that corporations are persons is at best ludicrous, and at worst, insane. Money is not speech, just as orange is not an apple. All of this nonsense is merely part of conservative ideology, part of their agenda. At this time, the official unemployment rate is 9.7%. However, the rate is probably over 20%. Few voices spoke up during the George W. Bush years about the fact that in 8 years not one net job was created, and before Bush left office, about 7 million people lost their jobs. Now it seems as if all those jobs were lost while Barack Obama was president. It's as if the Bush years never existed. The United States would have to produce 200,000 net new jobs each month for the next 7 years to get employment back to 5%. With this in mind, one should also note that many of the jobs that were lost are gone forever. They will never come back. Right now, we can help small business create some jobs, but they won't be enough. Our basic problem is bigger than mere job creation. We are probably at the point where the private sector cannot provide enough jobs for all who want to work. Many Americans believe in the myth that they are independent and free. They fail to see that if one is dependent on a paycheck, it is not a sign of being free or independent. The Bible tells us that in the millennium, when Jesus rules the earth, every human will have his own land and way of making a living. Also, standards will not change. It is strange that so many rabid supporters of our present capitalistic system claim to be Christians, and yet are unaware of the Christian economic system outlined in the Bible and how radically it differs from that which we know today. Perhaps it is money and greed which has clouded their vision. The end.